What's going on, guys? God damn, has it been a minute since I made a video. Um, Not Tigers related, but I kind of wanted to just come on and talk some baseball, man. As you can see, I don't even like the Lions, but it's Sunday, and might as well watch some football. Probably should put on Red Zone, watching the Lions surprisingly do okay against the Dolphins. Um, but after the NLCS and the ALCS, I wanted to come on here and talk some baseball. So now we know after the playoffs have come down to all this, it's going to be the Dodgers and the Red Sox going for it in the World Series. The Dodgers are going back for their second straight year, going to the World Series, and the Red Sox are going for their fourth title in 15 years. And so far, the playoffs have been pretty good. You start with the Red Sox Yankee series. That was an okay series. It wasn't anything special. The Red Sox were clearly the better team going into it between the two, and that short series. And it wasn't really anything that special. And then Houston, they did not have to play anyone because they won their division. Then it was Houston, Boston. And this was a surprisingly weird series. Houston takes game one and then loses four straight games to the Red Sox, including three at home. And the biggest thing that's going to be talked about in this series is the Mookie Betts home run, or not home run, as some people, because it wasn't a home run, because he robbed Jose Altuve. So basically, going in to that inning, the Astros were already down 2-0, and Jose Altuve hits a ball, and it's going up into right field, and Mookie Betts makes an outstanding leap and goes up to catch the ball. And it appears as if he's going up, and then a fan hits his glove as the ball looks like it may drop into the web. Because you can see that there was three guys around him. There was two to his right and one to his left. It looks like the one in the middle hits Mookie Betts' webbing on his pinky side, and it would be his thumb side, on his thumb side and his index finger side, and closes his glove premature, and the ball hits right off the top of here. Well, there is a lot of controversy going around this because people say that Betts went up into the stands and it was fair game for the fans to reach over and try to get the ball because he was going into the stands. It's fair game. If he's going into the stands, you're all good to go. You're allowed to perfectly reach over and you can attempt to grab the ball. But MLB ruled it that it was fan interference and he would have caught the ball. Now here's why I agree with the MLB. For me, I think this is why they got it right. If you look at the guy starting from far left to right, if you look at the first guy, his hand is gripping the wall as he goes to lean over to try to catch the ball. And then if you look at the middle guy, he's leaning from his seat. And if you look at the far right guy, he's leaning in from his seat. Now, there's no great angle here. The only one angle that they have looking straight down the line is blocked by a security guard. So we can't really tell depth perspective. How far is Betts' body away from the wall? Is he at the wall? Is his arm already reaching over? And I think for me, why I think they got it right is the fans in the first, the three guys that leaned in, they're the ones that screwed it over. Because if they just come back and stay like this, let Betts potentially go up, because I've saw it many a time where a guy goes to lean up and jump in to make a catch at the wall and then hits the wall hard and it knocks him back and keeps him from making the catch. I've saw that a bunch of times before, just the simple inertia of jumping up and towards it. If they didn't have the view of the guy's hand on the wall leaning over, which I think for me gives the most depth perspective of actually how far they leaned, because if think about it, if your hand is on the wall and you are leaning and your hand is on the wall over the yellow line, that means they were already pretty far out of their seats. And then if the other guy doesn't interfere with Betts' glove and the ball hits where it hits, what MLB does is it's got to be inconclusive evidence for them to overrule it. And I didn't feel that there was enough inconclusive evidence because of the lack of angle. You couldn't tell depth perspective of that should have been a home run. Now, a lot of Astros fans are going to be butthurt about this. And I believe that was the game that Benintendi made the catch at the very end of the game with the bases loaded and the tying and winning runs on to save it. It was a back and forth game. That's one thing this Houston-Boston series has been awesome. Was awesome. It was a very back and forth. I mean, Boston came out 1-4 straight after losing game one, and it wasn't much of a series for lengthwise, but it was still really exciting games. They were very tight. But I think MLB got it right. And if you're an Astros fan, you need to stop blaming the MLB. Frankly, the fact of the matter is you lost 4 straight games, including 3 straight at home. If you don't want to lose to the Boston Red Sox, you win some fucking ball games. That's all it comes down to. Like 2013 ALCS. The Tigers are playing the Red Sox. Game 2, after the Tigers came out in game 1 and absolutely dominated it, nearly no-hit them. They were in the 9th inning and the Red Sox didn't have a single hit. The Tigers came out in game 2. I believe it was Anibal Sanchez who started the game, and they no-hit them again through the first 5 innings. And then going into the 8th, it was 4-0. And what happens? The Tigers bullpen imploded, and David Ortiz hits that grand slam, and Torrey Hunter came this far away from making one of the best catches in postseason history, and stopping that slam and completely altering the Red Sox winning the World Series that year. Because think about it. If the Tigers win game 2, they go back at Comerica Park with Verlander on game 3 of the bump, and they would have won that series, no doubt about it. Because they lose 2 and 3 and then win game 4, and that's only because Jake Peavy was on the mound, and the Tigers owned Jake Peavy towards the back end of his career. So, but simple excuse, it's, I can't sit here and blame David Ortiz. That game 3, Verlander's pitching a gem and he makes one mistake and Napoli blasts a homer in the 7th. And then that's that. They lost. And then game 6, they allow a grand slam to Shane Victorino because Jose Veras gets in love with his curveball. End of the day, the Tigers didn't win games. End of the day, the Astros, who, regardless of win-loss record, the Red Sox may have had better win-loss record. I thought the Astros were still the best team in baseball, regardless of win-loss record, because I thought they were a better overall team. I thought they had a better overall defense. They had a better overall bullpen, and they had a better overall pitching staff for the playoffs. Now, the names for the Red Sox are sexier. Don't get me wrong with Price and Sale at the top, and I guess you can include Porcello. I watched him for 5 years, and I know anytime Rick Porcello never made a Tigers postseason roster as a starter. Anytime that dude ever came out of the bullpen, game 2 of the ALCS, I think game 3 of the ALDS in 2012 or game 2 of the ALDS 2012 against the Oakland A's. Anytime he ever came out the pen, the Tigers always got a walk-off because he was always coming in the 9th in a tie game. And they lost those games. So Porcello, he's still, for me, unproven. And David Price comes out, what does he do? He shuts up people and has an amazing start against the Astros. Gets his first postseason win. He was really good. He was amazingly good. But if you're an Astros fan, you need to stop crying and saying the MLB cost you this series, because they didn't. You lost 4 straight games, and that's all it comes down to. So, the NL side of it, the Rockies, there was some game 163s. The Brewers beat the Cubs, and then the Cubs lose to the Rockies, and then the Rockies get swept by the Brewers, and then we got the Brewers and the Dodgers. Now, this series was really good. It was a a big battle of bullpens. Besides Clayton Kershaw, Clayton Kershaw had one of his, I think his second best postseason start, because he had a postseason start of 8 innings where he could have went complete game this postseason already. So he's already had two really, really good starts. But for me, Walker Buehler has made the difference for the Dodgers. The reason why they're going to the World Series, excuse me. He's had some tremendous postseason starts. I mean, he had a dud against the Braves. I think it was game 2 of the NLDS, where he gives up a grand slam. But the Dodgers came back in that game, though. That was a crazy freaking game. That was a good game, though. But Walker Buehler has been really good. I mean, to go to a game 7 and come out and pitch the way he did was awesome. The Brewers were all hands on deck. They were just trying to survive. The Brewers, they're a very fun team to watch. But the problem with them is at the end, their offense, they had one game where their offense came out. I mean, they're big boys. Yelly and Jesus Aguilar, had one game where they did anything. Besides Yelich yesterday. Yelich had a bomb last night. Even though it wasn't nearly enough. That was it. That's all he scored. But Aguilar had one good game, and that was game 6. And they won that game. And, Yelich, it took him to the back end of the series to, contribute with the stick again, because he's, beat the Cubs, and he single-handedly put the Brewers on his back to get them to to even win the NL Central. And it was a very good series, but the Brewers, they just couldn't score runs, and they were just terrible runners in scoring position, and they relied so heavily on that bullpen. And Jeremy Jeffries, had a couple of he gave up more runs in October than he did for like 3 months. He had a couple outings like yesterday when Yasiel Puig hit the bomb off of him. Just these guys got tired. They got, they gave up just tip your hat to him home run. I mean, the ball that Puig hit was a slider on the outside of the plate that, he piss-seed line drive that was 25 feet off the ground the entire way and just barely over the yellow line, but it was a piss-seed missile, But they are a fun little team to watch. Arcia was good this postseason. Watching Yelich down the stretch was really, really fun since, the Tigers, there's really nothing to watch after fucking June. But watching Arcia and, Jesus Aguilar was an awesome surprise this year, and Travis Shaw. And I guess I love Christian Yelich and Lorenzo Cain. He was I always loved him even when he was on Kansas City, stopping the Tigers. Him and Gerard Dyson, I used to just fucking hate watching those guys in the outfield when they played for the Royals together, because they would catch everything. It was just unfair, the amount of speed. Dyson, Cain, and Alex Gordon. That outfield haunted me, because you weren't getting anything in the gaps. They were just, and then the arm that Gordon had, and Lorenzo Cain's got a pretty good arm too. It was, not fun to play against. So now we go to the World Series, and it's looking like, since Kershaw pitched the 9th inning last night to seal the deal, I don't know if the Dodgers are going to start him Game 1 of the World Series on Tuesday. That would only give him 2 days rest. With how good the Dodgers bullpen's been, and I think where they're at in this part of the playoffs, I mean, you need 4 more wins to finally get it done. And, last year they go to a Game 7 with the Astros. I don't know if you're Dave Roberts. Do you give him the ball Game 2 or Game 1? I mean, you could, because Red Sox have home field advantage, because the Red Sox have the best record in the league. So do you give the ball to Ryu Game 1? Do you give it to Hill? Hopefully, make it a bullpen day if they start getting in trouble, and just piece it together and then shoot Game 2 for Kershaw, which I'd imagine would be David Price, and then try to leave Boston with a split before you go to LA for 3. Now, I think I would start Kershaw Game 2. He's he pitched right away after pitching Game 6. Only a couple days rest. I think if you shoot for the split, go back to LA for 3. So you'd go Rich Hill, Kershaw, Walker Buehler, Hyun-Jin Ryu, and then Kershaw again. you know, and then need be, depending on the series, have Kershaw pitch out the pen, depending on whether you're up in the series 3-2, 3-1, it's tied, to get that win. That's what I would do personally. Now, who do I think is going to win it? I don't think the NL, and I said this as soon as the ALCS started. Whoever won the ALCS is going to win the World Series, because frankly, there was no one in the National League, in my opinion, that was going to come over and challenge the Astros' completeness of a team, bullpen, starting, offense, defensively wise. None of those teams over there were as good as the Astros. And none of those teams are even close to as good as the Red Sox are, because Mookie Betts is going to play second base and JD Martinez is going to be out in right field. So you got both those bats together. Jackie Bradley Jr. was a fucking stud in the ALCS. He came up with some big ass hits. And Andrew Benintendi is a fucking stud, and they're just one of the best outfields, Betts, Benintendi, and Bradley there is. So even with JD playing right, as shitty as right fielders he is, with still JBJ and Benintendi out there, there's still a stud defensive unit, even minus one handicap person, like it's when I play right field in softball comparison kind of thing. That's why I always play next to the fastest centers, because my ass ain't getting half the shit those guys are getting. I'm like, hey, that ball come up, you call me off, I'm pulling back, bro. I got you from behind. We're good to go. I'll back you up. If that ball's at the fence, we're good. I suck ass in right field. But just their depth of offense, the way JBJ played and how good Mookie Betts has just been this entire season. He's going to win MVP, in my opinion. And in the bat of JD Martinez, JD Martinez had one of the biggest hits that sparked the whole thing when in Game 6. When Yeah, it was game 5. Game 5. When he hit the home run off of Verlander. Now there was that controversial pitch. There was that slider that looked awfully good. That wasn't called a strike, but Verlander hung him up a curveball and he banged it right out. And then Devers hit the nail shot for putting the ball in the Crawford boxes, which pretty much made the game done. But J. Martinez, that dude is clutch. You don't call him just dingers for nothing. That guy comes up clutch. I can't tell you how many big home runs he hit as a Tiger over his career in the 7th inning or later. The dude gets it done. And, Devers had a big nail in the coffin kind of hit. Alexander Bogaerts is really good. Honestly, and then Mitch Moreland, if he's healthy, because the Red Sox played without Mitch Moreland for a while, and he's been, their best first baseman. And you look at them behind the plate, they don't get anything from Vasquez behind the plate offensive-wise. I think Vasquez has only had a couple hits, and his biggest hit all postseason has been when he hit a home run in Yankee Stadium that was like a freaking wall scraper. That's been about it. I think he hit it off CC Sabathia. I can't remember. He was Sabathia or Severino. I can't remember. So, to me, they are the most complete team right now left, and I don't think the Dodgers stand a chance. They're going to need some extremely good pitching. Manny Machado, who, by the way, when Manny first came up, I really liked Manny Machado. Because he's making stud play after stud play at third. Before he went off and had his first 40 home run season, he had like 50-some doubles and 20 home runs, and then he's a 40 home run guy, 30 double dude, and he's was just a stud. But Machado has always kind of had a punk bitch thing in him. I remember when he hurt himself and he came back from injury, and he had pulled up to avoid attack from Josh Donaldson, and he got pissed about it, and then he went and threw his bat somewhere else down the series at Josh Donaldson, and he got suspended for it. And then what he did to Jesus Aguilar was a punk bitch move. There's no reason why he needed to be running on the inside of the first base bag to try to get Aguilar's foot. Now, Aguilar's foot was a little deep on that bag. He should have been a little bit more on the corner of it. I agree with that. But there ain't no reason why he needed to run over Aguilar's ankle and pop his foot like he did. And he's just being kind of a punk. And he looks like kind of a punk with those stupid-ass dreads and shit now, and just the way he talks, and he's just being a straight little fucking punk. And I can't believe that out of this dude. And he's always had that in him, even since 2013. And it went away for a couple years. You didn't really hear much about Manny Machado, but now he was a little bitch this series. Now, I don't say anything bad about the slide at second base. I thought that was fine because he went through the bag. That just is what it is. It wasn't like, the Chase Utley, Ruben Tejada slide. But he's been a fucking punk. And he's only had a couple of hits in both series, because like his biggest hit in the DS was the bomb off Anibal Sanchez, and then he had a bomb in game 1 of the CS, and that's been really about it. He's been very quiet. He had a couple of really bad games in Milwaukee up until game 7, where he had a bunt hit and a couple of knocks. But they're going to need him going. Puig has been inconsistent, although he made up for it with the biggest hit of the freaking postseason, knocking that homer last night. So, they got their work cut out for them too. But luckily, Kershaw has been, more like regular season Kershaw in the postseason this year. And Walker Buehler's been really good, and their bullpen has been really, really good. I think kind of underrated in the postseason, because everyone talked about how good the Brewers bullpen was going into that series, and really it was the Dodgers bullpen that, shut it down. And Kenley Jansen's back to being healthy again too. So, they have some guys on there, but I think as long as David Price doesn't David Price it again, as long as they get a good start from Sale and game 1, give themselves a chance, that I think they win this in probably 5 or 6 games, because I think that offense is too good. I think they have too many good players, and with Betts' versatility to be able to play second base, which is going to allow them to keep JD Martinez in the lineup in right field. I think it's just going to be too much for the Dodgers to overcome, and they fall short again this year. They're just have not been playing good enough offensively. For me, at least, to think that with hoping that, Kershaw stays what he is, and, Walker Buehler are going to be, hopefully getting more great starts out of him, is going to be enough to beat a team of the caliber of the Red Sox, because they are just really, really good. They didn't win the amount of games they won this year by mistake. They are just that good. So I think that the Red Sox take this in 6, is what I'll say. I'll call it Red Sox in 6. And it's going to be a hell of a series. I'm really excited for it, because there's going to be a lot of unknowns. It would be one thing if, David Price and Rick Porcello were career shutdown postseason pitchers and stuff like that. And this is Chris Sale's first World Series ever. So who knows? I remember Verlander 2012. No one could touch that dude. Came in Oakland, fucking shut them down game 5, and they sweep the Yankees in game 1 of the fucking World Series, San Francisco. Pablo Sandoval's the hottest hitter coming into this thing. I'm like, okay, that's all good. And who else fucking was it? Their second baseman. He actually played for the Red Sox. Marco Scutaro. That dude. He was having a good postseason too. But I'm like, don't worry about this shit. JV's on the bump. This is fucking JV. Game 1, World Series. 3 dingers that fat fucking Panda hit. 2 off of Verlander, and I forget who he hit the third one off of. It might have been Phil Koch or Joaquin Benoit. I can't remember, but that fat ass fucking Panda hit those 3 fucking bombs. And what happened to the Tigers? They held 1 lead that entire series, and they held it for I think a total of an inning and a half in game 4, and then they lose it. I think Max Scherzer was the one who came out of the pen and lost it. So who knows? Crazier shit's happened. But like I said, I just think the Red Sox are too good of a team. I think that they're too complete of a team. I think Betts is too good. Bradley has had a great postseason, and JD Martinez is a stud when it counts late. I just think they're too good, and the Dodgers just aren't good enough to overcome. If a team like the Brewers took them to 7, and if the Brewers would have beat the Dodgers, I think the Brewers would have been swept by the Red Sox. So if the Brewers could take them to 7, no chance they beat the Red Sox, in my opinion, in this series. The Red Sox taking it 6. So that's what I got for you guys today, and I felt like just talking some ball, man. I don't know next time I'll be on here is. So, what are you guys' thoughts? Who you taking to the World Series? Starts Tuesday. Have a good one, guys.